To Business Focus. This is your most authoritative business and economic analysis program here on TV3. We're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. Now, the Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Bryan Acheampong, at a press briefing in Accra yesterday, said estimates suggested that farmers in affected areas due to a potential drought had lost investment of approximately 3.5 billion cedis, risking a potential revenue loss of nearly 10.4 billion cedis. Now, the minister said preliminary reports indicated that nearly 1 million farmers with 1.86 million hectares of crops were at risk, and that those farmers would lose an estimated investment of 7.4 billion cedis if there was total crop failure. What's accounting for all this? Tonight, we've got the minister with us to answer a few of these questions and a lot more issues surrounding his ministry. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you on the program. So let me start off first of all by asking, I mean, you have been a member of the NPP since you annexed power in 2016. You've been a minister, a member of parliament, and you only took this position in the last reshuffle, just about
15 months, actually.
15 months ago.
April last year.
Why would you take this position at this injury time?
Well, that's a strange question. If I have a day to serve my nation, I will commit myself to that day and do the best I can to deliver on the mandate that has been given me.
It doesn't matter that the economy has been going through difficulties. We're in an IMF program. There are a lot of challenges, raising revenue and all that.
Well, 17 times we've been at the IMF. The economy has been in difficulty, admittedly. It has been in difficulty in the past. I'm not being gloomy about it, but I think that in the future we probably will also have a similar challenge. Nations go through these periods, but nations also come out of these challenges and forges on strongly. So this is our time. We're taking it. We have been able to manage it very, very well. Of course, there is.
Oh, you say so?
Absolutely. I mean, look, others would have done worse. Under the circumstances, we have been able to manage it well. The fallout is that there's some hardships in the system, and we've acknowledged that as government, and we've given a plan and a roadmap to get us out of that. And I think that we are on the right path. There are no queues for fuel. The lights are on. There are no queues for food. Okay.
Has there ever been queues for food and for fuel?
You've been long enough in this business to know that in 2016 there were queues for fuel, long queues for fuel. So let us not go there. We know what we know, and let's be real about ourselves. The point is that you're trying to make is that things are difficult. We admit that things are difficult, but it's difficult because we're coming from a major world crisis. Others have, because of their resilience, have been able to scale through. We couldn't survive much of those, and we are feeling the shocks of it in the system. But I think that is something that we will get over.
Yesterday, you held an emergency press conference. I like to call it emergency because you were flanked by both the finance minister and the defense minister. My first question to you is, why are we here today?
Well, we're here because we experienced a dry spell. This dry spell was predicted by the meteorological agency. They also predicted that the dry spell will be long, but we all didn't know how long the dry spell was going to be. And the farmers also didn't know that, even in as much as we had communicated this through regular channels to farmers. So some farmers went and planted their seeds because around the 10th of June, we had some rains up in the north, in the Savannah zone, and the Savannah is made up of northern region, upper east, upper west, Savannah, and Oti. And then the transition zone, which is Bono and Bono East. Now, they experienced some rains around the June 10th and thought that this was the beginning of the rainy season. So they jumped on that and started planting. And the rain stopped from about June 10th or June 11th, thereabout, and didn't rain. June, July 10th, we had seen no rain. That was a month. August 10th, we had seen no rain. That was 2 months. We saw our first rains 20th of August. With this, it meant that everybody that had planted from Bono East, Bono, Oti, and the 5 northern regions virtually have lost their crop. So we had stunted growth of maize, granules were not doing well, soya was not doing well. Everything that the farmers planted, basically they had lost, except those who were on the black and white voter, along the black and white voter, and the small irrigation schemes, Tamni, Via, Tono, Botanga, those were, and those irrigation schemes that we had up north that had some crop. Everybody else virtually lost their crop because of the long dry spell that created a near drought condition in the savanna and transition zones of our country.
I'm glad you say these were predicted. We must have known. A lot of climate change warnings had started long ago, and we have attended a lot of international and local conferences where we've been warned about climate change and its impact on livestock and food crops and all that. And we knew that we could no longer rely on rains for harvest. How come we hadn't put in place measures to be able to forestall these difficulties?
Well, I don't think that we have not put in measures. We know the land size that we need irrigated to be able to be food self-sufficient or wean ourselves off rain-fed agriculture. The cost to do that, this year our budget is for 273 billion. That will not be able to construct 5 to 10% of our irrigation needs, what we call the irrigable area. The irrigation is just bringing the water from a main stream, a main river body, to a piece of land that you can now irrigate, what we call the irrigable area. The whole 273 billion will not be able to do 10% of our irrigation requirements. So it's something that we have to phase out.
But under the one village, one dump program, we said we had about 574 dugouts at a cost of 250,000 cedis each. And if we've done this over the last 8 years, we should have enough, shouldn't we?
Okay, so let me provide this education in detail.
Right.
One, there's a big difference between an irrigation scheme and a dam. Okay? A dam holds water. Okay? The irrigation brings water from the water body into the dam. The whole idea in the MPP manifesto, one village, one dam, which was concentrated up north, was one. They only have one major planting season, just one. Unlike the south where we have a major and a minor. Now the rains there are very heavy within a very short period of time. And then when it rains, the water just runs off. So the idea was that then let's build these dugouts to hold the water, the rain water.
Okay.
So we've done 574 or so of them. And that has served the purpose very well in terms of holding the rain water. In this case, there were no rains. So
to be able to hold?
To be able to fill the dam, to hold it so that the farmers will... Last year, when we had a lot of rains, the dams were very effective, and that is why we had the bumper harvest. Then you saw the price of maize drop from 350, 400 per 50 kg bag.
To a little about 100?
All the way to about 140 Ghana, 50 Ghana cedis, and farmers were actually even complaining. Consumers were happy, farmers were complaining that the prices were too low. That is an example of the dams working. Because there was rain, the dams were able to hold the rains as it was intended. Okay, and they were able to use it for a much longer time to farm. In this case, the rains did not come, so the dams in itself cannot work. And if you know the northern region, we don't have a lot of large river bodies except the Black Volta, the White Volta, and a few streams. Between a river body and most of the places where we have constructed a dam, you have to now run long miles of pump. And that for now is not feasible. So it should never be said or repeated anywhere that the one village, one dam has been a failure. It has actually been a success and has served us very well in the last 6 years.
But what about the Kwalugu multi-purpose dam, which we say we've spent about $12 million on?
But I think that you have been fairly educated on that. First of all, the Kwalugu scheme, both the electricity generation and the dam. The electricity generation must be constructed before the downstream irrigation schemes must be done. Okay, so you build the Akosomo, you regulate the water, and then the lowlands, you create the irrigation scheme. Now, in building these things, which cost about $1 billion or so US dollars, okay, the irrigation component of it costs, I think, north about $200-300 million odd dollars. Now, a big chunk of them, of that amount, goes into preliminaries, design works, investigate, all the academic exercises that must be done before you actually go on field, setting up site camps, doing all kinds of things. And I think you've seen the aerial image of the Kwalugu Dam. These are the things that cost that $11 million. So if you look in the contract, in fact, we're supposed to have paid them about $56 or so million. All the IPCs that they have brought, all the designs that they have submitted, all the houses that they have built around it, the camps that they have set up. And when I say camp, I'm not talking about tent camp. They've built a whole city, okay, that they were going to live in to do the construction of the project. This is what costs that money. And they brought a bank guarantee for them to be paid. So it will only take somebody who lacks severe knowledge to understand that if you are building a house and you pay an architect, okay, 5% of the cost, and the architect has brought you a design, doesn't mean that that will not form part of the cost of building the house. That, oh, you've paid, the cost of your house is 1 million Ghana cedis. You've paid 100,000 Ghana cedis to an architect who's only giving you a design. And somebody comes and says that you are corrupt. Nothing has been done on the site. There's no building on the site, and therefore there's no justification for paying the structural engineer, for paying the architect, for paying for the MEP, only to have a piece of paper in your hands. It only takes people who are uninitiated in these kinds of things to believe that a government who needs money, will take $11 million and give it to a Chinese contractor.
So Mr. Minister, if I get you correctly, you're saying that despite the repeated warnings, despite the assurances about the fact that, listen, climate change posed a major...
You're moving from Kwalugu.
Yes, right.
I want you to be satisfied.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
With Kwalugu.
Right, okay.
I'm saying that I expect some of you seasoned journalists with a deep understanding of the issues to be able to educate the public.
That what has gone on so far are only groundwork,
is
preparatory stages.
Absolutely. And if you study the contract, you realize that nothing has gone on. And I'm using a basic analogy that if you want to build a house and you pay an architect, a structural engineer, an MEP, and all those things, and they give you a piece of paper and there's nothing on site, does not mean
that there's no work being done. Right. I appreciate that. I was just asking for the benefit of those who have been raising these concerns. But you're suggesting to me, Mr. Minister, that despite the repeated warnings, there was very little government could have done because in your budgetary allocation, there was just very little money available for government to be able to construct enough irrigation systems across the entire country.
But it's just the way you're asking the question, repeated warnings as though we are being told. The effects of climate change is known.
Right.
Every country must prepare to be able to feed its people.
Right.
Ghana, we are on course to doing that. This dry spell is not going to change our way of farming. In fact, what it has done, or what we know, as validated by all other meteorological agencies, is that the dates of our planting season has just moved back about a month.
Okay.
That is now confirmed, and that is the education that we need to give farmers. So instead of planting in July, farmers will now have to plant in August.
Longer.
But whilst we are doing that, we are also constructing a lot of irrigation schemes, quite a lot in the time that I have been in office, 18 months. I can point to close to about...
Please do. I'd like to know what you have done as
I tell you.
Right.
I've done Ataniata irrigation schemes. That's under construction, 200 hectares. I'm doing the one for Kumewu. I'm doing Acheampong. I'm doing Atonsu. I'm doing the rehabilitation of the Via irrigation scheme. I'm doing the expansion of the Tamni irrigation scheme. I'm doing Padinja. I mean, I don't know if you want me to list all that.
So these are the list of irrigation projects that have been started under your watch as a Greek minister.
Yes, and it's 5,300 hectares because I believe in that.
And how much are these costing you?
But maybe about almost 4 billion.
Out of your budgetary allocation?
Over a 3-year period. Over a 3-year period.
Right.
That investment is about 4 billion. Okay. This year alone, we're spending about 1.2 billion of my budget investment going into irrigation. Next year, an allocation will be made, and then I believe that, I pray that in the next 10 years, Ghana makes the investment in irrigation so that we do not depend solely on rain-fed agriculture. I have made a case. I've done 5,000 hectares in irrigable area since I've been in office. I have sent a commencement request to Finance Minister to grant me to do 15,000 more immediately. That will put my irrigation development to about 20,000 hectares. Okay, at least I commenced 20,000 hectares. From Kwame Nkrumah to now, all our irrigation schemes constructed from Kwame Nkrumah to now is less than 15,000 hectares. I would have done, okay, or I would have commenced 20...
By the end of your tenure.
Yes, 20,000 hectares because of my belief in weaning ourselves off rain-fed agriculture. I would have added 20,000 hectares or commenced 20,000 hectares in 18 months that I would have been in office. And if we stick to this trajectory, okay, more aggressively, I believe that over a long period of time and not to exceed 7 to 10 years, we would have put in enough irrigation schemes to at least support our 10 crops that we consume mostly in this country. And I think that that is doable. That and it's not going to stop raining. You know, it's just that the timetable is going to change. Right. And therefore, you realize that complementing what we do in irrigation, we should be able to have some good food security and resilience.
Yesterday, you talked about the devastating impact of the long spell of drought and how government intends to rectify this situation. You've made an allocation of about 8 billion cedis compensation figure for the farmers. How did you arrive at this figure?
So, they are in several parts. The first part is what we're doing for the farmer. Then the second part is what we're doing for the market. What are we doing for the farmer? Almost 1 million farmers are at risk. Okay, so that is farmers in the transition area and the savannah zone. They are at risk. We have to go through and validate those who have been affected. As of the 20th of August, we had been able to validate about 871,000 hectares as directly affected. The validation is still ongoing. But let's use for the purpose of our calculation, those that have been confirmed affected. We say that, look, we're going to give them 1,000 Ghana cedis per hectare. That alone is about 871 million. Okay? But just so that our calculation will go smoothly, you know, because I know your math is not good, we put it at 1 billion. Okay?
Okay.
1 billion. We have to bring in food to fill in the gap. And the reason is that we consume about 2.5 million metric tons of maize, 1.4 million metric tons of rice. Half of the year is gone. So let's say we've consumed half, and therefore we are left with 1.2 million metric tons of maize to consume. We are going to put in an investment in the southern sector, what we call the minor season, which is just about to start, to prop them up. And we are hoping that that and the investment that we are going to also put in the northern sector, the rains also have just started there, we will be able to bridge the gap with about 600,000 metric tons. Then we have a gap of 600,000 metric tons. Government says that let's import for now 300,000 metric tons to come and fill in the gap. That 300,000 metric tons, 313,000 to be exact. If you work out the world market price of maize, it's about $200 FOB. Then you add the shipping, maybe about $250, $280 per metric ton. If you add it, you are looking at close to about $90 million. Okay?
To import these.
To bring that. That $90 million is about 1.4 billion. Okay? Exactly. So if you add it to the 1.1 billion grants that we're giving, cash grants that we're giving, that alone is 2.4 billion. We have to bring in rice. Okay? The rice amount is slightly higher than the maize. Let's say for the same figure, another 1.4 billion, even though it's much higher, because we're looking at about 100 to 150,000 metric tons of rice. And the rice price is about $700 on the world market price.
Bag?
No, for a metric ton.
Metric ton, okay.
And we are looking at bringing between 100,000 and 150,000 metric tons. And the world market price is about $700 per metric ton. That alone is about another 130, 100 thereabout million dollars. So let's say 1.5 billion. So between maize and rice, you are at $200 million, and that alone is 3.2 billion Ghana cedis using 16.
And where are we going to get this money
hold
from?
on. I just want to.
Okay, establish the point. Okay,
yes. Yeah. So that's 3 billion. You add the cash grants, and that alone you're about 4 billion, 4.2 billion. Now, the farmers that have lost their crop, we want them to an investment, which is the key. They've lost their investment. Investment means that they borrowed to buy seeds, improved seeds. They borrowed to buy fertilizer. They borrowed to hire farm hands to plant their crops. Now, we are able to compensate them for the seeds and fertilizers. If you look at the total number of farmers, okay, and what it costs to plant an acre. To plant an acre, you need 3 bags of NPK, 1 bag of urea, okay, and the maize seeds.
So by the number of acres.
So if you calculate the fertilizer that you need, okay, which is about about 2,100, and then you multiply by the number of acres, okay, we estimated about $268 million that is required to buy inputs. If you put that together, $268 million is more than 3 billion. So the actual amount required is way more than 8 billion. And the reason is this. We cannot fully compensate the farmers for all their investment loss. Why? If you plant maize on a hectare, okay, a hectare is 2.5 acres.
Right.
For every hectare, for every acre, it is estimated that you get 40 bags of 50 kg bag of maize. Okay, the 50 kg bag.
For every acre?
For every acre, you get 40 bags.
40 bags, right.
So 2.5 acres, you get 100 bags. Now, if we use 300 Ghana cedis as the average yearly price of a 50
I mean,
kg
you
bag
get 40 bags. That's
per acre.
assuming that you got everything right.
Yes.
The improved
Yes. I mean, this is
fertilizers.
actually very conservative
Right.
because there are some.
Oh, we could go further.
Yeah, some yields are, some seeds give more, and some give so. So this is average.
Okay.
So for a hectare, you get about 100 bags. Using the average price of a 50 kg bag, that's about 30,000 Ghana cedis in revenue from a hectare of maize. You want to stop journalism and go to
I've
farming.
actually started something. You need to help me.
Getting the figures.
I do. I started something.
Exactly. So, but with that 30,000 Ghana cedis revenue, it is projected that a farmer will spend about 30% in investment, in cost, in inputs, fertilizers, seeds, farm hands, and all that. That 10,000 Ghana cedis is a loss investment calculated now into the 3.7 billion that we're looking at. So we are ending up giving the farmer about 5,000 Ghana cedis in inputs so that they can replant. In addition to that, we're going to give them food grants. Okay, then we give them 1,000 Ghana cedis, okay, to support themselves whilst they go through the process. So, yes, we're giving the farmers money, and yes, we are giving them 1,000 cedis. Yes, we are giving them fertilizers. Yes, we are giving them all these inputs and food grants, and that is all that put together is how we arrived at the figure 8 billion. Even the 8 billion, I'm saying that is really, really shaped. Got a lot of haircut to arrive at that. Yes, because we also have to look at what we can raise.
And where are you going to get this money from?
My Ministry of Agriculture, I had a budget of 2.5 billion for the year for all my irrigation schemes, my programs, my agricultural programs. The finance minister has cut $1 billion of my budget to go and deal with the emergency. So Ministry of Agri, $1 billion of our money is gone. Okay, that has been cut. Number two, I know that some other ministries are getting some budget cuts to raise the money to support our citizens that are affected. I also know that the contingency fund to support such emergencies is also being affected.
And would that have to be taken to Parliament?
Yes, the Finance Committee, I think per Article 177 of our Constitution requires that the Finance Committee is invited to approve of that request. So all put together, on the government side, I think they are looking at raising between 2 billion to 2.6 billion through budgetary cuts to focus it.
And we're sure that these monies, these inputs are going to go directly to the farmers affected and not to MPP party foot soldiers?
That's
That's a major concern people are raising.
that's quite
Unpalatable?
well, or maybe unfortunate. Because if MPP farmers are farmers, if MPP people are farmers, they'll benefit.
Ghanaians, right?
If NDC people are farmers, they benefit. And we don't have a track record of politicizing.
Of diverting.
It's not, we deal with diversion, that's another matter.
Right.
I'm talking about politicizing input distribution.
Right.
And no, I'm a member of parliament. I have colleagues on the other side of
Who are
parliament.
farmers.
And not one of them, can say anywhere on any platform, since I have been here, that input distribution, especially the grant inputs, that one grain of that has been politicized. Nobody in this country can say that it has ever happened in the time that I have been here. And we don't have that record. We will not politicize food.
And it will not happen under your watch
But I'm saying,
as a Greek minister.
what I just mentioned, the history, the track record. We've given over 2 million bags of fertilizer since I've been here to flood victims, as input grants to those who have registered on the GAP, okay, and then also to input credit as input credit. We've given it all out, and nobody in this country can accuse us of having politicized that, and we are not going to begin now because that is not good for our food.
I appreciate that. Mr. Minister, you talked about imports and grains. Where are we importing these grains from?
Well, for now we are dealing with at the bilateral level. We're speaking with countries. I need the grains to be in this country by the middle of September.
Does that include Ukraine?
I repeat, I need grains to be in this country by the middle of September.
Could that include Ukraine?
Doesn't matter. Well, I'm not confirming that.
Or because in the past, we know the president had negotiations with Zelensky about possibly, importing some grains from their country. That's why I asked you that question.
I don't know about that. I'm saying that we've invited the diplomatic community. We've had a conversation with them, and we are asking them to help us identify sources within their countries that we can get grains. But don't also forget that we have grains in country. Last year, you didn't come and interview me when we had the bumper harvest, when the planting for food and job phase 2.
I'm going to go to that question. I've got a question for you. Yeah, please land. Yeah, make your points.
When it succeeded and we had a huge bumper last year, I wasn't interviewed. But what happens is that we bought some of the grains because the market prices were very low and it was really eating into the farmer's margin. So MOFA had to step in, okay, and reduce the supply, okay, by procuring some of the grains, mopping up some of the grains on the market to help bring the prices up.
We are short of some food sufficiency by the middle of September.
With what we are setting out to do, we should not have a problem.
Mr. Minister, how do you respond to those who say that it is regrettable that, over the last 7-8 years, we spent about 2.9 billion cedis on the Planting for Food and Jobs program? I mean, since 2018, where we spent about 400 million cedis, 318, 2019, 400 in 2020, a little over 450 in 2021, up until 2023, when we spent about 660.
But is it the figures that scare you?
Of course, they say 2.9 billion cedis is a lot of money, so much so that we should be having a lot of buffer at this time.
Compared to, it's a lot of money compared to what? You are trying to put in a food system to feed 32, 33, 34 million people over a long period of time. We are talking about 2.6 billion. Why are they not asking about the systems that we have put in place? It's cost in Tamni, it's cost almost $1 billion.
But even to buttress that, when you listen to the farmers, they say that Agri's contribution to GDP has consistently declined since 2016.
Which numbers are you looking at? We've had the highest Agri contribution to GDP today. 222 billion is Agri's contribution to GDP, 6.2%. The highest. So what are you talking about? So by just calling out numbers, 600 million, 200 million, 400 million, and saying that it's expensive compared to the irrigation system that in my time here, I've committed this country to 3 billion Ghana cedis in irrigation schemes in Acheampong, in Afram Plains, Kunedu, in Afram Plains, Ataniata, in Afram Plains, and rehabilitated via and Tamni, okay, to the tune of about 4 billion. These are systems that we are putting, so it's not just a matter of just blaring out numbers, 2.2 billion here, 1.2 billion here, compared to what? What are we getting out of it? We are putting in systems that will feed this country over a long period.
But we certainly don't have enough buffers. We wouldn't be in this position today.
You've seen the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2 document. We have listed out clearly what our net consumption is. We have listed what our production is, and we have designed a roadmap year on year. And yesterday, in the press conference, I accounted for what we were able to achieve last year. Last year, we met all our targets, except for poultry, that we were short by some good 15%. This year, we were hoping to meet all our targets. With the dry spell, I'm sure that we are going to miss some of the targets. But if we correct it by the end of the year, okay, we should be able to, in 5 years, 2028, we should have been able to put in all the food systems, all the infrastructure to be able to feed Ghanaians on the 10 crops and poultry. We will be food resilient and food secure. So putting these systems in place.
We cannot say, or people cannot just say that the Planting for Food and Jobs has been a failure.
We don't have the right to. It has not been a failure. We have not had a single, whatever you want to buy on the market today, if you go to the market, you will find.
From the Peasant Farmers Association, who are accusing your ministry of politicizing the Planting for Food and Jobs program, saying that all resources are given to party members. How do you respond to that?
I need one proof. I need one proof. One. The Peasant Farmers Association is an NGO They have never said anything good about this ministry, at least as long as the time that I have been here, not one thing. They should give me one evidence. We did grant distribution to 200,000 farmers that have registered on the Ghana Agriculture and Agribusiness platform. We printed those who have registered. We added the list, and it's there, it's transparent. If you come today, I can print the list for you. It's there for everybody to see. We print the list, and we add the fertilizer, and we take it to the district, give it to these people. And it is based out of, I have been accused. And if you go online, Google what is happening in Chianapaga. I have been accused of giving fertilizers to NDC people because the list of registered farmers, okay, included NDC. I said, I don't care, I'm giving the fertilizers to farmers. Go to WASA. I have been accused of giving fertilizers to NDC people because the mindset of the people was that if fertilizer is coming from
it's got to go to our party people.
It's got to go to our party people. And we have insisted that the only reason why you will get a grant fertilizer is if you are registered on the GAP, and then we'll give you 2 bags of NPK. And the registration is not just MPP card register. No, you have to register with your Ghana card. We have to come and polygon map your farm and link you to that farm. Okay, then you can and establish that indeed you are a farmer. Then you can get a grant. 2, we gave some fertilizers to DCEs and all members of parliament, as is done on the common fund, that there may be some vulnerable farmers who have not applied on the GAP or may not have been reached for communication or whatever reason. So we wrote a letter to parliament, okay, and we said we will allocate 100, every MP should bring 100 farmers. Parliament is 137, 138. All the farmers. I have a copy of the letter. So we gave MPs,
or so.
we gave MPs 100 farmers each. Vulnerable farmers. Bring them, confirm that they are vulnerable, and through you, we will give them the fertilizers. Never did we say that this is going to MPP people, this is going to NDC people.
There's also one concern coming from the vegetable producers and exporters who are saying that they have been evicted from their lands assigned to them for producing for export. This land, I'm told, is close to the airport area by their Greek mechanization yard. And for some 2 years now, they have asked for alternative land, but no response from authorities.
No, I know. I'm aware of that. I'm very much aware of that. I think if you go to Agric Engineering by Birmingham, if you go on the flyway on the left, you see developments going on there. Now, the pack house that was established for the vegetable farmers to transit through, package their goods properly, and export, they are being evicted out of the place. But it's come to my attention, and I'm dealing with the matter. I mean, the gentleman comes here quite often. I've met them here, Federation of Vegetable Growers. I've met them severally, you know, and anytime there's an attempt to jack them up, they come to me and we ice the issue. We need to either charge through the storm and keep them there, or find an alternative for them to be able to process their products for export. But that's something that's a challenge too that we will overcome.
2 final quick questions. What's happening to PBC?
Well, PBC is in a bad shape. You know, when I came in, the brief that I got, they are virtually lost trust with Cocoa Board because investment that I've been giving them over the years, over 10 years, it's all been losses. Okay, every time Cocoa Board gives them money, they are not able to report back and pay the full loan, and they are in debt. I think about 200 million Ghana cedis.
For which reason a court has ordered for their assets to be...
Yes, that the company incurred losses. Okay, the company, not government. The company has incurred losses.
The company which has government appointing people into.
It doesn't matter how many people will government appoint to PBC. 2. 2 people.
Okay.
Government will appoint 2 people. Or the CEO and maybe a deputy or 2. That's it. The chunk of the workers, thousands of them.
What about the board?
But the board is made up of institutional representation.
Right.
Okay? So, look, this when we say government, it's not one or two, it's you and I, our behavior. The company has incurred losses. I met with them here, okay? And then they spoke and I said that, well, you are also to blame. The workers.
So how are you
and
going to
then
deal
the
with all
management.
these challenges?
Government has approved 66 million Ghana cedis to negotiate with the banks, pay them down, to allow for Cocoa, because Cocoa Board is afraid that when they put money into PBC, the banks will swallow it.
Right.
So once the banks have some money, which government has given 66 million, they will be at peace. Cocoa Board will now give money to PBC for them to go and buy cocoa and pay the rest of the debt, without the fear that when the money gets to them, the banks will not swallow it. So that's the solution that we have.
You think it's going to be a sustainable solution?
Well, once we give them the money, we pray that the workers will be true to the organization and buy the cocoa and bring it to Cocoa Board. That is the only way the cycle will be sustained, that PBC can survive.
But Cocoa Board itself is going through enormous challenges. You know that.
Says who?
You know that.
Deloitte, and they reported a profit last year.
You know that Cocoa Board has not been able to go to the international market to source funding for its cocoa season. You know that.
It's not true.
The report suggests that consistently Cocoa Board has made losses over the past few years.
told you that they made a profit last year.
In terms of production, we've seen consistent decline in cocoa production as well.
I mean, you are the one that is saying that I didn't plan for El Nino, the climate change. We all know in the world it was reported that we will be affected by El Nino.
Right.
And we have been affected by El Nino, which has dropped our production from 850,000 as projected to about
But
600,000.
there's also evidential reports which suggest that galamsey is also a major contributory factor. You know that.
Which report I will not dispute.
So how are you dealing with all these challenges? You really have a lot to deal with as a great minister. You've got PBC to deal with, you've got Cocoa Board to deal with.
And I also have journalists misinforming the public to deal with.
Certainly not me.
No, I mean, you are doing fine. You are doing fine.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's something that we Ghanaians, we the people, we have to appreciate the trajectory that we are on. And we must all help to deal with the galamsey issue. Okay? Because if one government is tackling galamsey head on, and is going to pay an electoral price for that action. You ask me to go and pursue galamsey people, okay? I pursue them, and then you come and say that I've caused them to be unemployed, okay? And you pay the electoral price. Then you find a modification that may make you uncomfortable. It will achieve the same result, but it will not be one as aggressive as you want to see happen, okay, which would have probably given us a shorter solution. Now we need to find a very refined way of making sure that mining is done in a regulated way. And that in itself, you have to deal with the humans, the people, the Ghanaians that are into the galamsey. So the job is big, but when there's an understanding by the people that this is where we are going, we have to charge through on galamsey because it affects our waters, it affects our agriculture. We have to do irrigation to wean ourselves off rain-fed agriculture. We have to take care of our farmers because those are the people that are going to feed us. And we have to be able to communicate positively government policies on food and agriculture, on cocoa. Then I think we will all have one mindset to deal with the situation. But if it is all about negatives, PBC is collapsing, it is government. There's galamsey, it is government. Food shortages, it is government. Climate change, government is not planning. Then we are running away from the responsibility.
You're speaking with a lot of confidence, and I think a lot of people say you're quite influential and powerful within the NPP. Are you looking at becoming president someday?
I didn't hear that question.
Are you looking at becoming president someday?
You were saying?
Are you thinking of becoming president someday?
You were saying?
In fact, there's also another allegation that you were behind the the little coup d'etat in Parliament, the insurrection against the finance minister. Can you confirm that?
All of a sudden, I can't hear you. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryan Acheampong. It's good to have you. Right, so Bryan Acheampong is the Agric Minister. He was helping us deal with a lot of the issues that have arisen within the Agric Ministry. So we've been live on Facebook, streaming live on Facebook, also live on your DSTV channel 279. My name is Parkwesi Asari. We'll take a short break. We've got more